of chairs and lots of microphones. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? It's my first time actually saying out loud I'm the managing director of the Responsible Marketing Agency. I joined 2 days ago. So I'm an ex-agency bod for a long time with MediaCom for a while. I've just been consulting on my own business for the last 6 months, and I've joined a company that wants to make media and marketing a little bit better. And if you were here yesterday, you would have seen our founder, Hannah Mertzer, talk a lot about progressive media and progressive marketing. Hopefully those sessions will be up on YouTube. Check them out. Today I'm going to talk about retail media. And it's a very different conversation, obviously, from progressive marketing. But what's really core to today's conversation I want to talk to you about is I've been at the front lines of trying to roll this out at agencies, at brands. I'm still doing that now. So I'm going to share all their dirty secrets with you today. No, that is not true. I'm going to share with you some of my learnings of what I've been doing here, because I think as much as the opportunity is so fantastic here, we're starting to make quite a lot of mistakes. And I'm old, I'm grumpy, I've seen a lot of it before. So I want to outline what those are, and importantly, how we can start to get things right. So I've ruined the end of my presentation, but you knew it was coming. We're positive at the Responsible Marketing Agency. So let's start with a hype slide. Here we go. The retail media opportunity is huge. Okay, so there's lots of stats kicking around about retail media. It's an inconsistent definition of what retail media is. That's part of the problem. But Group M's done the best research, I think. And there's $100 billion spent annually already on retail media. So this is not a new opportunity. 1 in every 6 digital ad dollars is going into retail media. And you often get American slides in these sorts of presentations. They've done a nice UK-based one, and we're outpacing the Americans in the growth of the retail media market. It's much, 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 much more mature in the US, but we're catching up, as is the rest of Europe and Australia. Retailers love it because it's net new money. It's a license to print more cash. It's 60 to 70% more revenue net on what they're doing before, and it's highly profitable, 70 to 90% margins, right? It's fantastic. And Amazon is driving the space. Of course, they are massive, but the good news is that actually the growth is coming largely from outside of Amazon now. It's groceries, it's retailers. It's about 30% of spend at the moment comes from retail media outside Amazon. It'll get to about 40% in about 5 years' time. So that's positive for the industry. It's positive for brands as well because there's a greater opportunity in there. Hooray. Fantastic. But there are problems, right? There's cracks emerging here. And again, old, grumpy, seen this all before. There's a lack of consistent measurement approach across retail media. We haven't defined it very well, nor has the industry. I think the IAB might be working on it, but we don't have the protocols in place right now. That's needed up front. There is very little creative standardization in the retail media marketplace. If anyone's been working in a media agency before, you know how important it is to have ads that you can use everywhere, and get your creative agencies to make unique stuff is really, really difficult. There's inconsistent pricing models and routes to funding activity. One of the biggest learnings I had rolling this out at a media agency is the realization that the money that comes to fund this stuff doesn't come from the media teams. It comes from the commercial teams. And they work directly with Amazon. They don't work with agencies. You need the money from them. And they won't give you the money because you don't look after that remit, and it gets complicated. Fourthly, it's a fractured ad tech experience right now, and therefore it's a pretty bad user experience, and the best benefit of retail media is shopper data, and they know that. So everything's a walled garden. So there are solutions. I think trade desks I saw wandering around here before. Shout out to the trade desks. They are doing some work in that space, making this a little bit easier, but it is hard. So the greatest strength is its Achilles heel. There's a really good bit of research from McKinsey, which if you squint very hard, you can read on the right there, but they looked at things, what brands want from retail media, and no surprises, they want strong performance, driving ROAS, but they want transparency, and they want to be able to audit things, and they want scale, and that's hard. That can't be done right now. So everyone can go home, don't go to the presentations afterwards, retail media is useless. No, it's not. It's great, and it's really exciting, but these are problems that need to be solved. And I think unless you're in the room and you're the CEO of Walmart, it's going to be hard to solve that stuff, but if you're here working for a brand or you're working for an agency, it's your job to help pressure partners to help fix that. So like I said, I'm old, I'm grumpy, I've been here before, and I've seen this situation happen many, many times over. I joined the advertising industry 2004, 2005, when digital media started becoming not the sort of add-on bonus to your publisher deal that you would negotiate with a magazine publisher and you get your 10% inventory on the website. It started to become its own thing with its own standards. And we rushed in, and we tried to make up new metrics and new things that we could use to make that an exciting space, and we fucked it up. We got to social media in 2010, and we had Facebook with different ad units and engagements with thumbs up And it wasn't about reach and scale and sales, it was about engagement. Fuck that up as well. And then we got to programmatic advertising, where we celebrated that, whatever that is, and the complexity of that. And we're still not getting that right either, to be frank. And it's the same thing again, we rush in. We try and make excellence about that particular thing, and we do that really well, but then we get in boffins who don't understand marketing, and we silo stuff. We make up new metrics, and then we have problems down the track when our clients come to us and say, hey, can you give us a holistic view of the consumer and ads on the consumer journey that make the most sense and drive to outcomes? And yeah, but we've got a silo, and we have a different, we're fixing the silos by having a different name company with a different pricing model. And it gets messy. We're doing that now in retail media. Now, in an ideal world, this would be how I'd roll out a new capability. So I've done a lot of this stuff before beyond retail media, working with brands on the innovation front. I used to be an innovation lead, and I had an asymmetrical haircut. Now it's just 40-year-old baldness patterns. But these are the 4 I's. And this is how you go and roll out a function, add an agency, add a brand. First, you identify what it is. You see something in the press, and you go, well, that sounds very interesting. Is that useful to me? And then you look at it, and you try and understand what it is, and what it does, and whether you should be interrogating that further. If it sounds very interesting, you incubate it. You take experts within your business, sometimes outside, consultants, specialists in the industry, and you develop a POV and start to map out an approach for what that means for you as a brand. Then you innovate. So I'm going to call out Publicis here. Again, there are other agencies out there beyond Publicis, but I think they've done it very well in retail media, and that they've acquired Profitero and Citrus Ads, which are an ad network and a retail media management, I'll get it right, a retail tool to manage listings, basically. There's a snazzy word for that. But they're taking those tools and integrating that into their offering as a business, and their data offering, and the media offering. And I'm sure other networks are doing that as well. But they're innovating because they're taking what they do well, adding to the retail media conversation, building something that is great for brands, and that evolves the conversation forward, and building a pricing model, a commercial model, and a staffing model that makes the most sense. And lastly, they integrate, right? So as the conversation matures, a little bit like programmatic now, right? It's become the norm. So how do we start to go away from that silo into building it into how we do our day-to-day media marketing? And that goes for brands too. Now, like I said, this doesn't always happen. Look at the metaverse last year. We sort of rushed into step 2 and step 3, and then it kind of went away and wasted lots of time. Maybe it wasn't for us. But almost every single new capability should go through this kind of methodology and this process, because you can then work out whether it's right for you and how you should be approaching it. Now, retail media is a funny one because we've kind of already gone through that already within lots of businesses. Like I said, there's $100 billion spent already in retail media. It's not new, right? Brands are doing it already, but they've integrated it based on a model where it was very much a commerce conversation. They got the inventory from the trade deals they did with their customers, or their platforms they were buying through, and that capability sat within the commerce function. And there was a fantastic case study just now, for those that were in the previous session, of where a media agency is looking at an opportunity with a retail media partner through a brand lens, right, through scale. That doesn't come from the commerce team. That comes from the brand team. And so we need to go back and have a rethink about retail media, and where does it fit now on this journey? I think if we're going to make a mature conversation around retail media, we have to really shift about how we talk about it. And I like a from to slide. This is like a from and to. So we can't lose the original here. First thing is we need to move away from just seeing retail media as a way to improve conversions, right? Advertising at the point of sale, the digital shelf, getting people to go and buy our product. To actually look at it also about how we grow demand. And so by growing demand, I don't necessarily mean going and running ads for I don't know, raves on boots.com, right? It's about growing sales by looking at the category and looking at how users are shopping and building the brand through there rather than getting them further down the funnel. It's moving away from necessarily looking at retail media as net sales value and share of shelf, which is how they view it now, i.e. selling more stuff, more likely you'll get that sale, to share of market and share of mind. More brand-related metrics. Data is a conversation about people, right? And so therefore we can start to see retail media, like the Ruby example you saw before, as more of a brand channel. And lastly, data for targeting to a conversation around data for exploration. Shopper data is the best data source you can have on individuals. It tells you lots about them, what they're doing, and when they're doing it. Retail media partners are sitting on fantastic data, and they're building intelligence offerings to suit. Sticking that in the commerce team means you can't tap into that sort of opportunity. You need to look at it more holistically and evolve that conversation. And again, look, I'm talking about Uber. I'm not on the payroll, I promise, but if you want to give me some ad credits, that's great. But I think what you just saw with Uber in the presentation just before is exactly why we need to reset this opportunity. You have an audience there. Of course, you have Uber Eats. You have people going on platform, not knowing what they want to eat for dinner, and you can advertise your particular product, add your Coke to your order, maybe a pop-up store as an opportunity, but also they have scaled opportunities in terms of audience, particularly at certain moments, going to the airport, going out in the evening, going to the movies. These are new opportunities that we can't often reach people, and there's a huge dwell time on the phone in front of you as you're riding in your Uber. It's a fantastic opportunity. I'm not an Ed Sheeran fan, but I did like Wednesday, so I'm going to put that there. Those are ad units that have high impact and high cost. If you view that through a lens of commerce, it's not going to be a particularly profitable exercise for you in terms of driving sellout. It's a branding opportunity. And again, that sits beyond commerce. And lastly, and again, another agency call out here, but Omnicom launched something fantastic in Cannes where they can take Uber data, integrate it into their programmatic platforms to give you more intelligence on who you're trying to reach and target them. Again, other networks out there, you can do whoever you want, but I think that's a very good example of how agencies are reacting to the opportunity around retail media and building something different. So, let's get to the answers. What is the right approach? Well, it depends. Right? And my old boss would drag me across the coals if I said it depends. But I think it depends is a really great place to play when it comes to new technology like this because it allows you to build competitive advantage and build a solution that's right for you. And whenever I'm doing that, I ask 3 questions of who I'm working with. Number 1, where's your product being sold? Right? It seems like a fairly obvious question to ask, but actually, if you're looking at retail media, CPG brands get very excited by it because they don't own the D2C experience. By D2C, I'm not talking $20 candles that you buy on subscription. It's like Adidas.com, selling their sneakers on Adidas. It's a very different conversation with them about how they drive footfall to their website versus, say, Mars, who might be trying to sell chocolate bars on grocers where they can't control the data and they can't control the advertising opportunity. So there's a very different conversation about retail media between those 2 opportunities. Some will be already doing that very well. Probably most of that spend is in that CPG space. But also, there's other brands, there is an opportunity for them to look at retail media a little bit differently, but it's not necessarily about driving sellout on third-party websites like grocers, etc. Question number 2, I think is the one that we don't really ask very often, makes a big difference, is where's the competition being sold? Or more importantly, where's the category being sold? Right? Because I think this is the real immediate opportunity right now is to capture demand from the category. If people are looking for your category and they're looking for it on sites that sell retail media, that's a fantastic opportunity for you to gain advantage and capture that in-market audience that you haven't been able to do before. Again, that data often hasn't existed. That opportunity to advertise hasn't existed. Some, I'm aware, some retailers want you to drive for sale on their particular platform. Some are a bit more open and let you drive elsewhere. That's a real opportunity to grow beyond just the bottom of the funnel and start to look at growing demand and prospecting for new audiences. And the last one is the data signals that will help you better identify audiences. So as I said before, data is a conversation about people. Right? I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and very much her life cycle has been guided by Amazon, or at least what I'm buying through Amazon, because they knew when she was born because we were looking for certain baby products. We're looking for the rattles and the bars and things like that. And I don't know if they still hold the data on me, but I seem to be getting advertised products that are more suitable for her as she gets older. And so I think Amazon is tracking her journey as I'm tracking my journey through the lens of nappies. But you can also see things like buying dog food, right? If you're going to buy a dog, what are some leading indicators that mean you are going to be in a position where you're entering the category to buy dog food? You're moving house. You're buying dog-related products. Maybe you're showing signs of settling down into a marriage. These are leading indicators that the retail media sites do have that would allow you to then go and do some sampling, go and reach those customers, bring someone into a conversation about selling your product that you couldn't do before because you didn't have access to the shopper data. So I'm going to round up the conversation with a positive end and say, where can we start getting things right? And I think every solution is going to differ by client, by brand, by agency. If you want some help, my email's on the presentation. But there's 3 areas I think we should focus on. Firstly, let's talk about the opportunity first. Define actually what the opportunity is with respect to your brand and your category. Secondly, align that to how audiences are behaving now. What role does the retail media properties play on the consumer journey? Is it research? Is it purchase? Is it both? How can you reach people with the right message at the right time? And lastly, develop the appropriate work streams to actually go and roll this out. Don't go charging in and be like, we are all about retail media now, and we're taking it away from the commerce team, it's a brand conversation. No, you have to look at where the opportunities and start to map out what you need to do first, what you do next, and what you need to do in the future, okay? Then that becomes a conversation about change. This is not a static space, it is changing rapidly. There are new opportunities emerging almost on a monthly, weekly basis, right? And the key thing is when you look at how you roll out new capability into brands and agencies is that building on legacy never works, okay? You end up making a silo. You have to look at the structural and operational changes required within the business to go roll something new out. That can be really difficult because often that means changing people's jobs. But if the opportunity is there and requires some changes, even if it's just ways of working, you have to start mapping them out. Look at the evaluation of risk versus reward, okay? Especially in a space that's changing rapidly, because in 2 years' time this changes again. You don't want to go back and rip the rule book up again and restructure. People get annoyed. Start to make simple incremental changes and measure the impact of them and look at the internal and external forces that will make that change, i.e., is Amazon driving the industry forward? Are we waiting on some things to make sure we understand what the data opportunity is, what the creative opportunity is? And lastly, my favorite is governance, right? So governance is sexy to me. How can we make sure that we build a current and future state roadmap? Where are we now? Where do we want to get to? And what are the things that we have to do in between? What are the checkpoints that we have to hit to make that progression? We all want to be in the future, but we're all down here. So start here and get here, and here, and here, and here, and eventually you'll get there. And actually, where here is now will be very different from where here is in 5 years' time. And you can navigate that change as you go up. Test, learn, improve. New ad units will come along, new opportunities will come along, businesses will come and go. When they come along, because you know what your journey is and where you need to get to, you can create the right tests, the right metrics to track, and the right way to scale them out. And when new stuff comes along, when we're all shopping in the metaverse, on our $3,000 Apple headsets, you know, have a look at it and see whether it makes sense for you. Is this where my product's being sold? Is it where my category's being sold? Are there data opportunities exist on that platform that will help me reach my consumers better or understand my consumers better? If not, maybe it's time to give it a pass. So that's my presentation for today. Hopefully that's enough dirt that I can share. I'll be in the bar later on if you need any more. Is there any questions anyone has? All I can see is bright lights back the back as well. There we go.
Hi there. I saw on your slide you used the Netflix creative example on Uber. With these two companies being new to advertising and selling advertising, what excites you about two retail media companies coming together in a partnership, and what could they get badly, badly wrong?
I think it's really important when a platform is building an ad offering that actually partner with the brands that share their similar values. And I'm not entirely clear on what the first brands that Uber looked at were, but I know whenever Snap was rolling out, or Apple Ads, or these sort of brands, they were looking for the Nikes and the Adidas of the world that had the right sort of cultural fit. And I think Netflix is a brand that most people see as an innovator, and they don't spend a lot of money on ads, and I think it's a great way to match two brands that are innovating and seen by the public to be innovating. I think if their first brand had been an ad for Iceland, no apologies for anyone that works at Iceland here, you know, as a user, you'd be like, why is there an Iceland ad on my Uber experience, whereas there is a personalized, cool brand that's relevant to someone. And suddenly it's like, oh, actually, I can live with this experience, right? This is adding value to me as a consumer. And I think it's very important as retailers roll out, they take that approach. Someone asked me before today, and they said, like, do you believe that Tesco is going to start advertising, like, completely irrelevant advertising on their sites? And I say, no, I don't think they will. I think the Americans will come out and say that they were looking at that. But the reality is, like, you don't want to lose your customers on your website who's buying your stuff. That's where the majority of revenue is coming from for retailers. So it's really important as these ad offerings roll out that the retailers look at this space and go, how can we make sure we're making more money for us by offering an experience for our customers that is additive? I hope that answers your question in a really sort of wishy-washy way.
Excellent, Liam. Thank you very much. That was particularly insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, if we can give a round of applause for Liam Brennan.
Thanks, everyone.